Hi everybody, this is Liz Keon, beauty business expert, and thank you so much for joining us today. We have been inundated with queries about staffing, employment law and all sorts of issues that you face on a daily basis over the last week or so. So I'm delighted today to be down in Peninsula's headquarters, and I'm being joined with Graham today, and I'm going to pass all your questions on to Graham. So Graham, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem, Liz.
The first question we've got is, when do I need to issue a contract of employment to an employee?
Okay, yeah, it's a common enough question from across any industry really. From a legislative perspective, the guidance is that's there that a contract needs to be issued within the first 2 months.
Okay.
So that's from a legislative compliance perspective. However, the advice really that would be best, and kind of from a HR best practice, I would say, is try to get a contract in place before somebody starts. It's easier, it'll be much more smooth. That's our offer of employment. It's up to you if you wish to accept it or not, and then it's in place before they actually start working. But specifically from a compliance perspective, within the first 2 months.
Okay, great. We're sharing the mic. What exactly do I need to include in this contract?
Okay, so from a contract perspective, there's a number of terms and conditions that you'll need to include in it, the likes of pay, hours of work, job title, annual leave entitlements, sick leave, sick pay, whether it applies or whether it's just statutory, pension, so on like that. So there's a number of requirements that are there, but I think maybe where that question sometimes comes from is maybe what doesn't then need to go into the contract, I suppose, and where that kind of comes from then is where people will have a handbook or policies and procedures document. So the likes of your disciplinary procedure, your grievance procedure, dignity and respect at work, which is a big area as well. All of those policies and procedures don't need to go into the contract. Sometimes people can put too much in there. You're well enough keeping 2, 3, 4 pages for your contract, your key information that's in there, and the rest in terms of your big policies and procedures can go into your handbook, which can then be amended from time to time, whereas the contract is by agreement and can't be changed without agreement.
Okay, right. Third question that we got in this category is, what do I do if an employee will not sign a contract?
Okay, yeah.
This happens a lot in the hair and beauty industry.
Yeah, it's a good question as well. And again, to be fair, it's probably not just specific to the industry as well, it's across them all where you can have it. From a compliance perspective, again, the obligation is on the employer to make sure they've issued the contract. Okay, so it's when you've issued it that you have signed it and that you've dated it and you've issued your contract of employment to that employee. Obviously, ideally, it's great if somebody agrees to it, signs up to it, and a copy goes on file. If not, you can maybe issue another communication if you haven't received a copy back from the issued communication to just confirm it was issued on X date, assume you've no issue, that's your terms and conditions of employment. And that's really the onus and the obligation from an employer perspective. You'll have issued the contract within a compliant time frame, and once it's signed and dated from the employer, that's the key piece.
Okay. So we're saying then we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the next question, again, we got a lot of questions in on this. So I've summarised it too. Do I need to issue separate policies? And what's the difference between policies and the contract?
Okay, so that's maybe a bit of a crossover there with one of our earlier questions. That is that key thing where your policies and procedures, it is advisable to keep them out of the contract. So it's the meat and bones go into your contract. Those key things like pay, hours, pension entitlement, annual leave, sick leave, those key elements go in there. Anything else then you would keep out for your policies and procedures. Some people call it an employee handbook, staff handbook, policies and procedures document. And that's where you can kind of build out a little bit more. So while you might have an annual leave entitlement stated in your contract of employment, how that annual leave might be allocated or different policies around that and patterns or restrictions would then go into the actual policy, which is in your handbook. The real advantage of doing that, I suppose, is from a policies and procedures, that can then be, there's generally a clause in your contract then that you can say, we reserve the right to update and amend our policies and procedures. So then you can update that and advise your employees that we've updated this policy. Whereas to change a contract of employment, the only way you can do it is by agreement. So if all of those policies and procedures appear in the contract, The only way of changing them is by agreement with staff.
Okay.
So by keeping them out of that and referring to a policy handbook, that gives you that opportunity of being able to update that, because we do get legislative changes, best practice changes, just industry specific things or challenges yourself in any different organisation that you're going to experience, and then you can at least have that option to update and change your policies and procedures.
Great. So we're saying you need the two. You need the contract
Working
and
together.
you need the policies.
Yeah.
Now, this can get very complicated, but from our industry, I'm always saying things like, you can put the simple things into the policies. You can put in grooming policies, timing policies, training policies, all the things that you expect people to know and understand, but unless it's in writing, they won't know it.
Absolutely, yeah. Anything like that, it's kind of, that's your guidance document that's there.
Right, okay, so we need both. Right, on to the fifth question, and final question for today. I need to take on extra staff in the busy run up to Christmas, and will I be letting them go again in early January? Do I need to give these new employees short-term contract workers? Do I need to give these contracts of employment and policies as well?
Okay, yeah, understandable again in that time period, and I'm sure it's not just at that Christmas time period either. Yes, you would, contract of employment. So you don't need to go into a permanent contract of employment, but it would be a fixed term contract of employment from a start date and an end date, and a very important clause around it, and that the Unfair Dismissals Act will not apply to this contract or this period of employment if the reason for the termination is that it's the end date. It's simple as that. So that's why, again, it's a really important one. The contract is issued in advance, so the employee is aware that it's a 4 week, 6 week, 8 week contract, whatever that might be. But yes, there would still need to be issued a contract.
Great. Okay, that's brilliant. Thanks so much for joining me today, Greg. If you'd like any more information about this, Avril would be delighted to take your calls. The number is flashing up at the end of the screen right now, and also can't have you all just going to Avril. Liz Keon Limited, we would be delighted. We've got to enter you into a competition, and we'll let you know what the competition for a free event or a free workshop is as a result of joining us for today. So really hope you enjoyed it. Any issues around contracts or policies, please just give Avril a call, and look forward to seeing you all again next week.